Welcome to the Fairest podcast. Here we explore spiritual insights and practical strategies to help you cultivate a family life rooted in beautiful, self-giving love. Join us as we invite experts to share uplifting perspectives and actionable advice for navigating the joys and challenges of modern family dynamics. Welcome back to the Fairest podcast. This is the beginning of season 6, and this is where we'll be interviewing new experts on topics that relate to family life and raising children in today's world. So today I'm joined by Carolyn Madigan, the founders of Solé Atelier, a Catholic lifestyle company creating products that bridge the human and divine for the striving professional. So together we're going to discuss order and beauty and the balance of life as we create rhythms to support our families. So we're going to talk about how to cultivate a home that reflects God's peace, how beauty shapes our interior lives, and how we can build rhythms that align with our family's purpose. So Carolyn, thank you so much for being on our show today.
Definitely. Thanks for having me, Mary Grace.
Just to start us off, you have this beautiful company that you've started, Solé Atelier, and we just would love to hear about how you guys founded that company, what was your inspiration, and then a little later on, if you want to just tell us about the name too. It's a very unique name.
So it actually started on a drive home from Chicago. At that point, Mariana and I were both friends, and we had been in the city, and we were coming back and just started brainstorming and daydreaming about how great it would be to have a Catholic lifestyle, good company, but one that was a little bit unique in the sense that it didn't exteriorly denote that it was Catholic, but it was more focused on the individual user. And so exteriorly, it was beautiful, streamlined. You could go into any environment from the boardroom to the cocktail hour to the chapel. But really the purpose of it was to give that individual user a better sense of interior life and living in the presence of God. So fast forward a few years later, we were both living in different countries, pregnant with our first. And we're like, hey, we have a little bit of downtime. Let's do it now. And so from there, it was started. Wow. And our first product was obviously the planner. And the idea with that was we were juggling a lot of different responsibilities. Mariana was in grad school. I was in a new country, starting to volunteer, new job, and all the rest. And so we were like, we have a lot of responsibilities that we're learning to juggle, as well as being married and starting a family. And we wanted something that would help us live that order and peace better. And so our first product was the planner.
That's great.
And so from there, when we were coming up with the idea of the name, it comes from a few different sources. One, we were doing a play on words with the soul purpose. We wanted to be very focused with the end goal of being a saint. So soul being singular and soul as in the eternal part of the human person. And then we added an accent mark on it as we're both from Hispanic backgrounds, and we wanted the ole part, so a little bit of fun, a little bit of party.
Oh, that's great.
And then Atelier, that it's like thoughtfully crafted, well designed, and meant to spark like joy through beauty.
That's awesome. It is a very beautiful journal. Got to
Thank
check it
you.
out. Yeah, that's great. And so when you were discussing just kind of the foundations of this journal and just even the company itself, you talked about that purpose of the self and like kind of building up those habits and planning, to improve yourself spiritually as well as just professionally. So how does your planner, let's say, help with establishing kind of those routines and those habits and just, maybe even the spiritual aspect of it as well?
So from the very beginning, we actually partnered with Optimal Work, which is a company it's phenomenal. I advise everyone to check it out. It was started by Dr. Kevin Majors, and it's really the end goal of it is striving for excellence in your work through having this like higher purpose of working. And so the way that we structured the planner was kind of within that framework of having like, what are our big outlining goals for the year? What are those things that we're working to strive towards? So it could be this year, I want to be healthier as an overarching goal. Eating, working out, sleep, all the rest. And then we break that down into monthly goals. And so how am I working towards that monthly goal? And then each day, how am I moving towards that direction? And so that was one of the like partnerships that we had from the very beginning. Along with that, we also had a section for routines. As we know, like the seasons change. And so we have to change with them and have that sense of flexibility. I see it daily in my son as he's like growing up and learning new things so quickly. But also in ourselves, I think it's important too to remember that it's not always going to be, I don't know, I go to mass at this time of the day, at this time of the day I get to work, things come up, and we have to be able to adapt to that. But it helps to have that sense of order and kind of a schedule or routine already in place that we've reflected on to really guide that work, and then also bring peace to the rest of our family and make ourselves more available for the other relationships that we're trying to foster. And so that's kind of towards the more like human aspect. In terms of the spiritual one, we included a habit tracker, which could be seen as a human one, but also we're realizing like we want to be like super solid in praying the rosary every day, for example. And so we can put it there as a habit that we want to foster, this Marian devotion. We also have a gospel quote of each day on the day of the week. And this for me was super important is, I don't know, maybe it's like the mom brain, but I go to mass now, I feel like, and I come out, I'm like, what was the gospel? Yeah. I don't even remember what it was, but I want to be contemplating it throughout the day. And so even having that little like nudge to remember what it is. Along with that, we also have the Holy Father's monthly intention, which many people don't even know that he has one. And so really to be united to the universal church and what the Holy Father is asking of us in praying for that intention concretely in our work, so that we're offering it in union with him. Along with that, something unique that I haven't seen even in other Catholic planners are aspirations. So they're short prayers. They could be phrases from the saints. They could be from the Bible, but really to like jog that I'm living in the presence of God right now, and he's here with me. And so it could be even just like saying Jesus' name to something like one in Spanish here, everyone says is alma calma, like become my soul kind of thing when we get kind of agitated or we realize we're running and we don't have right order, but to really kind of like live that presence of God better. And then along with that, the liturgical calendar to really be in tune with what's happening with the church, and to really celebrate those feast days as well.
Wow. Love that. That's so jam-packed. That's amazing. No, totally. and I didn't notice because it's very beautifully done. It's very, like you were talking about, you said streamlined. It's very kind of like you could bring it anywhere and people wouldn't be like, oh, that's clearly, the most Catholic planner you've ever seen.
Which there's some really beautiful, like very overtly Catholic planners, but it just was a different mission.
Yeah, no,
from what we're looking to do.
For sure. And I love that it still incorporates those kinds of things.
Totally.
So with, you mentioned habit tracking, you mentioned just like having those things to kind of prompt you throughout the day. How would you, how old's your son? May I ask?
He's 14 months.
14 months. So so it's new-ish still.
Totally.
We're in the same,
I feel like it'll be new forever.
Yeah, right. So I guess in that sense, like considering, prior to having children, prior to being married even, and then now, like as you're in the thick of being a parent, how would you define order? And then like within your home and within your family life, and then how does that help you like establish your daily rhythm? Whether that's using your planner or not, like just what does that order mean to you?
So I think in defining order, it's a virtue that when we live it well, tangibly you can see it in that there's peace around you and that you have a sense of clear purpose in your life. And so I think it helps to start with kind of the inflexible, I would say, priorities. And so I want to go to mass daily. I want to make that a priority. I want to have time for a family meal together. On Sundays, I want to be able to have an excursion and not have to go grocery shopping and do cleaning that I missed on the week before. And then building in those other kind of additives. So like I want to take care of my friendships and foster those. I want to be cooking creative meals and have time for that, and so on. And so I think it helps. And this is where we created the monthly routine section to break up kind of the weeks and say, okay, on Wednesdays, those are going to be my shopping days because I know my husband is going to be out a little bit later. And so I can go shopping, organize the food in the fridge, put everything away. Tuesdays are going to be my cleaning the bathrooms days. That's it, because it takes a lot of time. And then the next day, Thursday, is going to be my, doing the sheets and laundry and whatever. But really having those days kind of spread out with a general order, but at the same time being like totally flexible and knowing that, I don't know, for example, my son is sick and so I need to take care of him or his sleep schedule is off. And so now I'm going to have to be able to move those things around, but having a general idea of where things can go and where they can fit in. And then within that, having other priorities. So how am I going to spend time taking care of my friends, of my family members? And I think that really helps too in terms of communicating. We do a monthly family meeting. And so we have kind of a general schema of like familial health, physical health individually, financial health, spiritual health, and then cultural or intellectual. And it helps to have that general framework to then be like, okay, a check-in concretely. It's not just like, how are you doing? Because sometimes we can get so overwhelmed or so into the minutia that it's hard to step back and be like, okay, am I actually going in the right direction? Am I living a sense of order? Or am I just like list on to the next thing? And so having those essentials in mind and that schema really helps kind of the core activity when you're juggling a lot of responsibilities.
That's great. And I love how you said it's a virtue, but then you also mentioned that flexibility aspect, because I think, I think we can get caught up in the rigidity. Like I also am like trying to teach my son how to sleep, whatever, sleep train him as well. And you're like, he's got to go to bed at this time and then it's got to be this, but it's like the idea of being flexible as well in the midst of all of that.
And I think, especially in terms of family life, flexibility looks different in that it's not just me being flexible this time, but really reflecting what does my family need. And so, I mean, with sleep training, it's so pertinent to where I'm at right now too. At first I was like, oh my gosh, he needs to have this like long of naps. He needs to have this many number of naps. And I was like, I need to just like step back a little bit and be like, oh, he's looking tired right now. And kind of like learn from my son what he needs versus imposing it. And I think that's super helpful in family life, like learning from the others and then bringing that flexibility in that way.
Yeah, definitely. And so many people see beauty as something that's kind of, actually, I was just having this conversation with some friends and we talked about how beauty is like super expensive and it's extra. It doesn't really need to be a thing. How do you see beauty as an essential to like family life? As because your journal is very beautiful, it's very put together and very pretty. How would you see that as an important aspect of family life?
So I love this question. I love talking about beauty and could just go on. And it's amazing because it is, like you said, such a tangible human experience. And it's something that any human being, no matter their background, in a sense, like is something that we're attracted to and we want to possess in a certain capacity. And so, I mean, we even see in the way that we choose a bottle of wine or a book, like this label is pretty. It's how we judge another person. Like she looks nice in that first like 1 second. It's also what stops us in our tracks when we see a beautiful Caravaggio painting that we look at in awe and see this like truth and goodness that's captured in it. Or what makes us cry when we see a bride like walking down the aisle, arrayed for her like soon to be husband. So there's different types of beauty. We have like the spiritual beauty and physical beauty. And when things are like really, truly beautiful, they possess both this ability to capture our attention and then at the same time cause this admiration that springs up within us. And we can see that too. I remember giving a class to some high school boys talking about beauty and I was like, and your grandma, like you probably think your grandma is beautiful, but like if you actually step back, you're like, wow, she's old, she's gray, she's and we can see the physical aspect, but we know in her goodness, the smile, the way that she knows us, like she's beautiful. And we see kind of the need for it even in like why it's easier to pray in beautiful cathedrals with these frescoes that like raise your heart and mind to God in comparison to this like church in a box where beauty is kind of stripped, because when beauty is present, it tends to take us outside of ourselves to a higher plane and experience this grandeur of God. And that famous quote of St. Augustine was like, beauty, late have I loved you. And he refers to God as beauty with a capital B. And so it's intrinsically connected as a transcendental, like with God. Early on, this was a conversation that we had in terms of Solé, because both of us were striving to foster beauty in the way that we cared for ourselves, because we know that it draws us here towards like the interior goodness of the person. And at the same time, it's a gift of yourself to others in the way that you dress and the way that you carry yourself. And so likewise, fostering beauty in our homes, whether it's having those fresh cut flowers or beautiful dishes instead of the paper plates, working on those table manners and teaching our kids them as well. That extra detail of putting like lavender in the laundry or the thoughtful way that we act or dress might be small and like extra work. You can think of it that way individually, but it all works together in a sense to allow the soul to flourish, nourished by this like goodness around it that's connected with beauty. And then at the same time, it helps the person who's living in that atmosphere to recognize their innate dignity as a son and daughter of God, deserving of this intention and love in the details. So like you said, it's also why we put a lot of thought into the design of our products, because the physical beauty can and should be a sign of the interior beauty and lead you to that. And so we want to cultivate this interior beauty of the product that would bring peace and joy from this exterior experience with it, which also makes us use it more often, quite honestly. Like if it's beautiful, we'll gravitate towards it and we'll take it out more often because it points to something greater beyond us and more magnificent.
Yes. Oh, I agree. Yeah, that's true. Like you always want to like look at it. It's on your desk. You're like, oh, that's so
Totally.
nice. I'm gonna
Right.
open it
And
and
you want
use
to
it.
carry it with you. Right.
Yeah, exactly. I want to go back to you had mentioned,
Sure.
well, we were talking about just the idea of your company, Solé
Okay.
Atelier, like focusing on, yeah, just the spiritual aspect, but then also there's that professional aspect of elevating professionalism. You are a mom and
Yes.
you guys have this incredible company. And so I'm wondering how that works with, kind of being that working mom, kind of, because I'm sure a lot of our listeners as well are not, some of them are stay-at-home moms, some of them are more busy and they have their own jobs and stuff, but how you can, if you have any advice to give to them about how they can kind of establish good rhythms and practices that will help them kind of maintain that balance in their home as well as in their professional life.
So I think we're both, Mariana, working on this. But I think one of the things that we've been thinking a lot about and discussing recently, we even had our first 100 purchasers. We put on an event for them with Optimal Work, but the title of the event was Work-Life Balance, like fact or fiction.
Mm.
And I think from my personal perspective, I think it's fiction, this idea of like we can balance and have it all. Like I don't think that's actually a reality. Like we give way in some things and move towards others, but I think it's helpful to remember that we're living more of an integrated life, that we're body soul unity. And so from the very beginning, it wasn't the body first, then the soul, or the soul first, then the body. It's one and the same. And so same thing with like work, life, all the rest. Like the end goal is to get to heaven. So all of it's integrated into this one person, the decisions I make, how I spend my time, the people that I'm with, and how I'm sanctifying it. And so I think that also helps to take a big kind of load off of our shoulders, that I need to balance all these spinning plates at once. And it's like, no, some things I'll have to give way in. And that's a conversation to have within my family. For example, I have one friend who is like, I have 6 kids. She works for Princeton. Is like, the biggest thing for me is like, we figured out on a tight budget, like how to have somebody come clean the house, deep clean once a month, because it brought peace. It was
Yeah.
a greater good. I was able to spend more time with my family, and so on. And so figuring out what are those ways that I can maybe give way in. And then also we love, again, optimal work. The idea of many times we think we need more time than we actually do to get things done. And I think especially being a mom who works inside the home, obviously, and then
Yeah.
outside the home in terms of Soleil, it's helpful to really live the golden hour. And so this idea of being incredibly focused, coming into my work with, okay, I have 1 hour. In this 1 hour, I need to get the entire marketing plan done for the next 2 months to create pieces. I need to contact X, Y, and Z, set up these meetings, and then being very aware of like distractions versus interruptions. So is my space free of distractions? And distractions could just be that it's like not a tidy space that I'm sitting in. So I'm going to be distracted by like, oh, I really
All
need
of
to do
the
the
media.
dishes, or I need to like deep clean this area. So finding a space that like brings that peace, setting a timer. Don Alvaro, Blessed Alvaro would always say, it's super important to begin on time and end on time. And so I'm committing to that 1 hour and then welcoming the interruption. So my son coming over and needing me or something, whatever, he fell and he needs it. Like that's a great interruption where I stop my work totally and I focus on him. And so not trying to be, I think many times as moms, we're like octo moms. Like just the other day, I was leaving the house and then I noticed that his toys were out and I had to put it away. And then I remembered that I wanted to take out the garbage.
Oh, yeah.
I forgot that I had this like cake that I wanted to bring. I'm like trying to do all these million things like in the 2 minutes that I was like trying to get out the door. And now it's like 10 minutes getting out the door.
Yeah.
And I think just being like singularly focused on letting it go and being like, all right, like, well, it's not cleaned up. Like that's on my list to do when I get back.
Yeah.
But being a little bit more simple and not feeling like we have to like balance it all, but like one thing at a time.
Yeah.
I'm gonna be on time for mass and I'm gonna let the rest
Yeah. Yeah.
kind of sit there for the hour that I'm out of the house.
Right.
And so kind of like being more aware and intentional in my use of time.
Mm.
In our home in particular, my husband and I have also started to do, because we'll go to early morning mass and then we have breakfast together, and we've started discussing our top 3 in the day. And I think that helps to like give clarity instead of having that rotating list of all the things I have to get done. What are the 3 things that by the end of the day I need to accomplish? And then we're able to support each other because he also works remote and being like, hey, have you gotten XYZ done? Can I help you? Whatever, facilitate it. And then also being intentional about front loading the week and Saturday so we can really have that peace and rest on Sunday to carve that out. And then lastly, we started doing it. It's been such a beautiful game changer. But not having our phones on after 8 p.m. Obviously, like we have the family members that can call through to do not disturb, but us like not being on and being like, hey, I'm just going to look up this article or let me look, but kind of talking through it. And if we can't find the answer, like moving on. But it gives more of that like convivencia or that time together, living together.
That's great. See, so you actually answered a couple of my other questions that I was going to ask you.
Oh, perfect.
Just about, you nailed it. No, I love that. And I think those are all very practical and honestly very doable. I love what you said about we had more time than you think. I guess you have more time than you think,
Totally.
basically. Like you can do things within an hour.
Right.
And I was talking to my husband about it recently and just, that, when you have more things on your plate, you actually get more done because it's like you realize how to prioritize and how to put things first. And then also, I love the distinction that you made between distractions and interruptions. I think that's super, super important to remember. So just to kind of finish up our conversation, how do you like looking at just your life and like how you've done things recently and how you've kind of overcome certain struggles with order and just prioritizing your family's needs and everything. How would you measure your success establishing those rhythms, establishing those structures in your life, whether that's, just with those discussions, those monthly family meetings that you've had or your planner, or like, how would you say to someone, okay, this is it. We're doing okay here?
I think like a good question to ask yourself and like the people in your family, like as obviously the ones who have use of reason, but like, are you happy? And not happy in like the ha 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 sense, but like, are you at peace? Like, do you know that God loves you? Are you feeling fulfilled? And then from that question of like, are you happy? Like, how is your heart? And I think it's a great question to take to like prayer personally, minimum once a month. But I think that kind of check-in really helps. And then along with that, I would say like frequent confession, because many times we can't see how we're doing if there's like things that are blocking our vision. And then I would say the other thing is like success looks so different many times of like what we're thinking. And so on a human level, obviously for us, it's like more sales for Solé, that we're bringing in more people, more partnerships and so on. But on an existential level, it's how am I living as a daughter of God? Am I bringing others to Him? Is my family becoming more holy just because I'm living out my vocation as mother, wife, daughter, sister, and so on? It's kind of a broad answer, but
I think all those you brought up two really good questions to ask, and I think those things, you can kind of convince yourself one way or the other, that I am happy, but if you aren't doing those other items, sometimes it can be hard to really discern whether or not that's true. I love that. How can we, our followers, find Solé's planner? Do you guys have any other products in the works? Like, what's going on with that? And your website or anything, if you want to share that with us now, that'd be great.
Sure. So our website is www.soleatelier.com. And on there you can find both our planner, and then we have a daily notepad for those who just want something to leave at their desk, and are more the hourly planners. So they want to break down by hour. And then we also have coffee from my husband's family's coffee farm. And being a coffee connoisseur, it's amazing. So definitely check those out. We have a few of those left. And then in terms of things in the works, we're, like I mentioned in the beginning, our mission is to create products that help the individual user better live in the presence of God. So potentially coming up in the near future are more things in terms of like scapulars or rosaries that you can wear, but somebody who didn't know what it was wouldn't necessarily be like, oh, you're wearing a rosary, or oh, you have a scapular. So that's what we have. And then definitely give us a follow. We're on Instagram, we're on LinkedIn, Facebook as well, so you can find us there. And then we just recently are found in Our Lady of Champion, the Shrine of Our Lady of Good Help, Marytown bookstore, soon to be in CIC in Washington, D.C., and then also in a bookstore, Catholic Family Bookstore in Pleasant Prairie. So definitely support your local bookstore.
Yes. Yeah, that's great. Awesome. Well, thank you so much. This was actually such an enlightening conversation, very powerful. And we're so happy that you were able to join us. And we look forward to potentially talking with you soon about new products, or just even continuing this conversation about, establishing good rhythms in our family life and bringing order back and beauty. So thank you so much, Carolyn.
Yeah, thank you, Mary Grace.
Thank you for listening to this episode of the Fairest Love podcast. In 2026, we continue to share the devotion to Mary, Mother of Fairest Love. If you like what you heard on today's show, please visit our website at fairestlovefamilyproject.org where you can find additional podcasts and other resources for families. Be sure to also check us out on social media at Fairest Love Project. Thank you for listening, and we'll catch you on an episode soon.